My name is Emma Johnson, and the night my family abandoned me in the hotel lobby, I was wearing my favorite red dress and the necklace my mother gave me before she forgot my birthday for the first time. The hotel smelled like cut lemons and polished wood. The chandeliers trembled with a conditioned breeze. I stood beside a floral arrangement, so extravagant it looked like it wanted to apologize for existing. The concierge asked me if I needed help, and I smiled, because I always smile when I'm bleeding. Just an hour before, I had checked in for all of us, my sister, my brother, their spouses, their kids, with the gold card I kept tucked in my wallet like a secret apology to myself. I had booked the rooms, arranged the adjoining doors for the cousins who still texted me hearts and cat emojis, requested the allergen-free pillows for my niece, and pre-ordered a cake for the breakfast buffet because my brother insisted that. The twins were hotel shy unless sugar greeted them at dawn. We were meant to gather for a weekend to celebrate my mother's 72nd birthday. A woman who had taught me to sign my name with decisiveness and then, at 50, decided my life was a mistake because I didn't marry. They walked away from me while I was smoothing out the confusion with the front desk. Two of the rooms had the wrong view in by the time I turned. Their backs were vanishing into the mirrored corridor like a flock of glossy birds. "We'll meet you upstairs," my sister called over her shoulder, a smile sharp as a shimmer of glass. The bellhop waited with their luggage, his white gloves holding handles that had never known bus stations or borrowed suitcases. I watched them go with my breath caught in my throat like a bead on a thread. "Miss Johnson?" the concierge asked. "Would you prefer the 12th floor skyline or the 6th floor courtyard?" I tilted my head to the side, as if listening to a voice I didn't trust yet. "The skyline," I said. "They always love the skyline." I did not tell him they loved it because it allowed them to point to an idea of success, while forgetting the cost. I did not tell him that the cost was usually me. By the time my key cards were printed and stacked in a neat little fan, my phone had already become a field of notifications. My sister Laurel had texted a room number for the children's club. My brother Marcus had sent a picture of a lobby installation, giant floating leaves, clipped to the ceiling with wires captioned, "The kids say they're your vibe." Andy, my mother, had sent nothing. She was upstairs changing from one black dress into another, pursing her lips at her reflection as if the mirror owed her money. I took the elevator alone. My face, reflected back at me in the faint metallic sheen, looked unreasonably cheerful. That was always my mistake with them. I brought and I smiled and I fixed and I smiled and I paid. And I smiled until the smile became a brand burned into my cheeks. When the doors opened onto the 12th floor, the carpet swallowed my footsteps and the hall breathed silence. I could hear laughter behind a door, Laurel's long, practiced laugh. The one she used to tell a room that she'd survived poverty when what she truly meant was that she'd survived proximity to me. Their rooms were a constellation around the corner. I set the tote bag of welcome baskets on the hall table and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, softer. The door opened an inch and my mother's husband of 3 years, Nelson, peered out like suspicion, wearing a golf shirt. "Emma," he said, as if the name tasted odd. "We're settling in." "Wonderful." I lifted the tote. We've got it." He glanced over his shoulder. "We're fine." And then, with the infinite power granted to mediocre men who marry widows with complicated daughters, he closed the door. I stood perfectly still for 10 seconds. A trick I learned from difficult meetings and delicate surgeries of the heart. 10 seconds of stillness lets the wave crest and break. Afterward, you're only wet, not drowning. I set the tote down and texted Laurel, "Welcome baskets outside your doors. Dinner at 7? She read it immediately and did not respond. Marcus sent a thumbs up and then, a moment later, "We thought you'd join later." Mom's resting. Resting from what? I wanted to ask. From being adored? Instead I sent, "Perfect. See you at 7. Then I turned and walked back to the elevator, rode to the lobby, and asked the concierge if the spa had availability for a 30-minute shoulder massage. The answer was yes. I lay face down in eucalyptus and soft music and let a stranger's hands tell me that I wasn't made of glass. When it was done, I tipped too much and returned to the lobby bar, where I ordered sparkling water with lime because I needed my head clear for whatever form their love would take tonight. They didn't show for dinner at 7. They didn't show at 7:15. At 7:30, Laurel texted, "We've decided to do room service. The kids are fried." Marcus sent, "Rain check?" My mother sent a single picture of a silver dome over a plate and a caption, "Cozy." Nelson sent nothing. He didn't need to. His silence was a signature. I ate alone in the restaurant with a view of the city's bright necklace. I ordered the steak frites and asked them to put the cake back in the refrigerator so the breakfast surprise wouldn't be wasted. The waiter, a man with a soft face and eyes like this, wasn't the first time he'd seen a woman keep her composure, brought me an extra scoop of rosemary ice cream on the house. For company, he said. I told him it was perfect, and it wasn't. At 9. I walked past the lobby piano where a man in a looped tie was playing Misty, as if he'd lost the melody somewhere in a bad year. I stood under the chandelier again and watched the elevator doors open and close, releasing strangers in pairs and trios, releasing no one who carried my name. I realized then, in the clean, bright light, that I had booked my family into a luxury they had decided was evidence of their worth, not mine. That I had paid for their comfort and been asked to meet them later at the finish line of their appetites. The thought arrived, and gentle and clear. I am not a concierge for their joy. I went to the front desk and asked to speak to the night manager. She appeared with a calm expression and a pen tucked behind her ear. Her name tag said Daniela. "Ms. Johnson," she said. And I understood that the staff had already learned my name because I was the one who signed. "What can I do for you?" "Nothing complicated," I said. "I'd like every room on my reservation to be switched to payment upon checkout. And I'd like my card removed from the folio." She blinked. The kind of blink that suggested a smile wanted to be born on her face, but she wasn't sure if she had permission. "All right," she said carefully. "You're the primary guest of record. We can do that. One last thing," I said, and slid across the paper I had tucked into my purse on instinct alone a list of what each person owed for their own room. I had calculated it in the spa waiting room while sipping ginger tea. A calm little ledger of love translated to numbers. Itemize. And please add a note that incidentals will require a card, of course. I looked at the elevators again. "If anyone calls down to complain, please forward them to me." I gave her my room number, a small island on the 13th floor that I had booked for myself, because I believed in quiet miracles. Back upstairs, I opened the window a fraction and let in the city's midnight breath. I took off my jewelry and set it in the porcelain dish, watched the gold chain tangle itself as if trying to become a story. I thought of Laurel as a child, hoarding pickle slices under her tongue to startle me hours later with their brine. I thought of Marcus at 13, weeping in a hardware store because our mother had scolded him in public. I thought of me at 22, holding two jobs and a degree in a hand that shook with caffeine and hope, the other hand steadying a family that mistook steadiness for servitude. My phone rang at 12:07 a.m. "Laurel." I let it buzz twice before answering. "Emma," she said, breathless, theatrical. The way she spoke when she wanted to make a feeling into furniture and set it on the table between us. "There's been a mistake. They say our rooms aren't covered." "No mistake," I said. I changed the payment method. Silence. The kind that falls when someone realizes the ground is not theirs by divine right. "You what?" "I removed my card," I said. "You'll need to put down yours for incidentals. You can settle your room at checkout." "Are you drunk?" "Not even a little. This is for Mom's birthday," she hissed. "You said." "I said I booked the rooms," I said. "I did. I also said we'd celebrate together. You chose to celebrate separately. Separated things have separate bills." She made a noise like a laugh that couldn't find its way out. "You're punishing us." "I'm correcting the story," I said. "I'm not a punishment. I'm a person who buys her own dinners." She hung up. The ceiling stared at me with its smooth, expensive indifference. 5 minutes later, Marcus called. He didn't bother with hello. "Laurel says you're having one of your moments." "I am having a life," I said. "It looks like a moment from where you're standing because you're used to me ranging the horizon." "You can't do this," he said. "I've got the twins asleep." This is chaos. You can, I said softly. You're capable. There's a bank card in your wallet and a history of me making sure you never had to use it. Try. Mom will be furious. Mom is always furious, I said. She treats fury like jewelry. He exhaled so hard the call fuzzed. You're different lately. I'm the same, I said. I just stopped apologizing for it at 1:14 a.m. The knock on my door was familiar, 3 short, 1 long. The tap code of our childhood when our mother entertained guests who didn't like to see children. I opened the door to my mother in her second black dress. Lipstick reapplied and dignity pinned to her shoulders like a shawl. Nelson lurked behind her, a shadow wearing cologne. Emma, she said. And her voice carried the smooth authority of a Sunday morning. What is this I hear about the rooms? That they're yours, I said. To enjoy and to pay for. She took 2 steps inside without waiting to be invited, scanning my room as if the furniture might testify against me. We are here as a family, she said. Family means keeping score only in love. I know the rules, I said. I'm simply learning a new sport. Nelson spoke for the first time. Childish, he pronounced. You're childish. I looked at him the way you look at a fly that refuses to find a window. Nelson, I said, and he flinched at the sound of his name in my mouth. Would you like a drink of water? No, my mother said sharply. We want you to fix this. I did fix it, I said. I fixed it so that the story makes sense. She lifted her chin. I won't be embarrassed at checkout. You won't be, I said. You'll be responsible. Same thing, she said, and for a second I saw her at 32. Beautiful and exhausted and holding 3 grocery bags in a child's hand. I wanted to fold that younger mother into my arms and tell her that the world would not end if she let herself be held. The woman in front of me would not stand still for that. Good night, Mom, I said. Happy birthday. I handed her a small wrapped box. This is for you. She took it despite herself. Nelson muttered something about ungrateful and show, and then they were gone. The corridor swallowing them the way it had earlier when they were shiny with arrival. I slept well. Morning was a blue ribbon slipped through the sky. At 8, the lobby filled with the scent of coffee and warm bread. And I stood by the buffet as the chef brought out the cake I had ordered, the one with lemon layers and buttercream rosettes. I told him there'd been a change of plans. Put it on my table, I said. He did. Laurel arrived first, sunglasses on, hair in a bun that said she hadn't slept but would rather die than admit fatigue. She glanced at the cake and then at me. Really, join me, I said. Or don't, she hovered, then sat. Marcus drifted in with the twins, who ran straight to me and wrapped their sugar-sticky hands around my waist. My mother arrived last, Nelson at her elbow, her smile practiced. She sat without meeting my eyes. The table felt like a stage set with all its props. I raised my cup. To Mom, I said. Who taught us how to be seen? She inclined her head a fraction. It was the closest she came to warmth. Laurel sipped her coffee. We'll handle the bill, she said, as if announcing a charity donation. For the rooms, it's fine. It is, I said. Thank you. We ate. The twins told me about the rooftop pool. My mother described a nightclub she and Nelson had visited the week before, as if nightclubs were small countries that issued passports to those who deserved them. Marcus asked about my job, and when I told him I'd negotiated a new position that paid me what I should have been making for years, he looked at me the way he used to look at constellations, skeptical but willing to be convinced. Laurel announced she was starting a lifestyle brand and would need a favor, then caught herself and cleared her throat. Not a favor, she said. Advice. Advice is free, I said, and smiled over my coffee cup because advice is only free when it doesn't cost you yourself. After breakfast, the family scattered to their errands, the twins to the pool, Laurel to a boutique, Marcus to an art gallery, my mother to the spa with Nelson in tow. I wandered the city alone, my phone heavy with the quiet that follows a storm which refuses to admit it was ever a storm. I bought myself a book and a pair of earrings shaped like raindrops. I took myself to lunch at a cafe where the waiter wrote the word brave on the check in blue pen, as if he'd misheard my name and decided to make a correction. At dusk, while the city's lights shook themselves awake, we gathered again at the hotel because habit is a thick rope. Laurel asked about dinner somewhere loud to drown the silence, and my mother declared she was too tired. Nelson made a show of rubbing his temples. Marcus shrugged, the gesture of a man who knows he's the hinge and is tired of creaking. I'm going to the front desk, I said. For what? Laurel asked, her suspicion a new freckle. For closure, I said. And perhaps for the first time in our lives. None of them followed. The night manager on duty was a young man with a haircut that tried too hard. He recognized me immediately because people who pay are memorable. I asked for the folio for my reservation. He printed it and slid it across the polished wood with a discreet nod. Next to each room number was a blank where my card used to live. Next to mine, a balance for two breakfasts and a cake. I signed with a pen that felt heavy and honest. Is there anything else I can help with, Ms. Johnson? He asked. Yes, I said. There is. I thought of the years of making my love look like logistics. I thought of the text messages that rang like doorbells to a house I maintained but did not own. I thought of my smile, that bright flag that never stopped waving, and how tired my arm had become in the night. I told him, while they sleep, I'd like to cancel the rest of their nights. He didn't flinch. Perhaps he had seen worse. Perhaps he had been a child once, too, and recognized the clean, final sound of a string being cut. We can shorten the stay to tonight, he said. There will be no penalty with your authorization. You have it, he typed. Paper spat from the printer like white birds. He handed me new receipts, small white truths. I felt an odd lightness begin in my ribs, as if a choir had been living there with the lights off and was finally rehearsing with the doors open. On my way back to the elevators, the lobby pianist began a different song, something with spine and forward motion. I stepped into the mirrored box and watched my reflection stare back, startled and delighted. In that glass, I looked less like a concierge and more like a person who knows the price of a room and the cost of a life. I slept well again. At dawn, I woke to an orchestra of messages. Laurel, Emma, what did you do? Marcus, they say we check out today. My mother, call me Nelson. This is unacceptable. The twins, a selfie with pancake foam on their lips, captioned Andy cake is the best. I made tea. I answered none of them. I stood by the window and watched the city stretch. The sun grazed the river like a coin tossed into a wishing well by someone who finally understood that wishing is not the same thing as asking. There was a knock at my door a little after 8, and I opened it to my mother again, this time without Nelson. She looked smaller in daylight, or perhaps I was larger. She held the earrings I had bought, turning them as if gemstones could confess. You did this to embarrass me, she said, but her voice wavered, and I saw the younger mother again for an instant. Asking a tired cashier if this coupon still counted, I did it to align the story with the truth. I said, you can stay in my room if you want. I'm leaving today. Where? Home, I said. Then somewhere else. I haven't decided. I might drive to the coast and stand in the wind. I might go to a lake and let the silence teach me its grammar. She set the earrings on the desk with a little clink. You used to be so good, she said. I am still good, I said. I'm just not convenient. She pressed a hand to her temple, then let it fall. Will you at least come downstairs? The children want to say goodbye. I will. We rode the elevator together. The silence this time not a wall but a fabric, soft and breathable. In the lobby, the twins ran to me again, clung to my knees, and declared that I owed them one more story about the hotel ghost that rearranged the pillows to improve dreams. I told them the ghosts would follow them home and fix their dreams there too. Laurel stood by the window, arms crossed, trying to braid anger into certainty. Marcus had the quiet face he wore when he knew he'd been unkind without meaning to. Laurel began. You humiliated us, but Marcus cut in. We can talk later. He met my eyes. Are you coming to Mom's dinner next month? If I'm invited, I said. You're always, he started, then stopped. He looked at Mom, she looked at her shoes. The silence that followed wasn't the old kind. It felt like a blank page. I hugged the twins. I hugged Marcus. I nodded to Laurel and she, after a second, nodded back as if conceding that the sun was, in fact, up. I kissed my mother's cheek, which held itself steady as a coin balanced on its edge outside. The day was crisp, the kind that makes you think your lungs are being wiped clean. I handed the bellman my bag and he hailed a cab with a flourish that made me laugh out loud. As I slid into the seat, my phone buzzed again with a message from an unfamiliar number. It was Daniela, the first night manager. "We adjusted the reservation as requested," it read. "I hope you have an excellent day, Ms. Johnson. P.S. I love the red dress." I typed back, "Thank you for witnessing." The cab pulled away. The hotel shrank in the rear window until it was only a suggestion of columns and glass. I thought of the moment in the night when I signed the papers, and how it felt like canceling something vast and invisible, an inheritance of apology. A dowry paid in endurance. My name is Emma Johnson, and I am not the woman in the lobby anymore, smiling at the desk while my family walks away. I am the woman who paid for every room and then, in the dark, canceled the reservation none of them had ever made for me, a lifetime of being their certainty. I am the woman who will send a postcard from the coast that says, simply, "Wish you were brave." And so I went toward the water. The next morning, I woke lighter than I had in years. My decision at the front desk had not just canceled their rooms, it had canceled my role as the eternal caretaker who always bent until she broke. At breakfast, I sat with my tea and cake while the others scrambled, their voices raised, their frustrations spilling into the lobby. Laurel glared, Marcus sighed, and my mother tried to mask her fury behind dignity. Yet when the twins ran to me, hugging me tight, I knew I had not lost everything. I had only shed what had never truly been mine. "Goodbye," I told them, calm and steady. My mother's eyes softened for just a breath, as if she wanted to speak but swallowed the words instead. Laurel muttered about humiliation. Marcus simply said, "Take care of yourself, Emma," and I did. I checked out with nothing but my own bill to breakfast and a cake. Outside, the sun was sharp and clean, as though the world itself had been scrubbed new. I stepped into a cab, carrying no regret. My name is Emma Johnson. Once, my family abandoned me in a hotel lobby thinking I was their safety net. That night, I proved I was not. I canceled more than their rooms, I canceled my silence. From that day forward, I was free.